Karen and Jan, I'm so stoked to talk to you tonight. Jan, I've met you in person like 5 years ago.
Yes.
Karen, we haven't met in person, but we've spoken, on many occasions, and it's
We
yeah,
have.
it's really great to get your input on what you do and what's, the state of affairs in New South Wales and what's going on down there and the concerns that you have for the future of wildlife rescue.
Yeah.
Um, Both of you, Karen, you referred to yourselves as what was it this afternoon? You said two old grandmothers who started raising wombats back in the 90s.
We did. Yeah. Our children have, grown up with wombats chewing their
Awesome.
shoelaces and hair. So yeah,
So
we
maybe just start doing an intro on
yeah.
yourselves and let us know who you are and what you do.
Well, I joined Wires back in 1995. I had a passion for wombats, which started when I was 6 years old. I stole a baby wombat from a school fete and was made to return it to the farmer. And I just said to myself, one day I'm going to have my own wombats. And, when the chance came up, I did a wires course and my passion was wombats. And I've been with doing wombats, and I do other wildlife when I need to. But wombats are my favourite animal to care for.
What sort of region are you in?
We're in the far southeast,
Okay, cool.
and that's how I met Jan, and then from Jan I met you. So
Yeah, nice. Go for it, Jan.
Okay, so I've been a wildlife carer since 1980. I did have a small break in between. I started off caring for macropods before we knew anything about how to raise them, and was personally acquainted with Colin Penny, who had a lot to do with developing milk for them. And then I had a bit of a break. I joined NANA, which is now Wildlife Rescue South Coast, and left that group and then moved down here and decided to join Wires. I didn't know Wildlife Rescue was down here. And I was just thinking, oh, I didn't believe they had wombats down here because I come from out west. And I rescued one and I asked our wombat coordinator, can I please be mentored to do this? And from that day, my heart has just been taken away because nothing compares to having a baby wombat. They're just, well, I've just got a brand new great granddaughter. So maybe she's coming
Oh,
close.
yes,
Yes.
congratulations. That was so exciting to hear.
But yeah, so I've been the wombat coordinator in the far southeast off and on for about 5 or 6 years, probably maybe 7. And I've been a member here for 8 years, helping out. We have a lovely branch. Our members are all great. We get on lovely and well together. We don't probably get together as much as we should, but we're all there for each other if we need it. Our problem is head office, the trouble we have with head office.
So what's the
Yeah.
feeling like among the branch at the moment with what's going on with all of this chaos?
We're
I'd
very
say,
sorry, Jen, you go.
Oh, I was going to say, I think the feeling is, and I feel the same, is that we're a bit scared. We don't know what's going to happen. First, we're a member, then we weren't a member. Were we able to be on the BMC still? They were still sending us, ringing us up for rescues. Karen and I are on the speed dial because, there's not very many of us who do rescues, and we cover a very big area. And when Karen's not here, that that falls short as well. We have one shooter way down the end. We have a shooter who's up right up the top. The middle area is left. It's quite bad. We've got a lot of members, but only a few very active members. And some of those people, the active members, have dropped off because they're a bit frightened of what could happen to them if they're not doing exactly the right thing. And it's hard in the country to do exactly the right thing. So
because
yeah,
you
Karen, you
don't
had
have
something to
any
say.
you don't have any vets who specialize in wildlife where you are, do you?
And that's another.
No, that's yeah. Go, Karen.
Yeah, that's another problem in our area. Our area is we do have a really big area. The far southeast is from the Victorian border all the way to, which is the next place, Jan?
Tilba.
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 But, that is, and there's heaps of bush all around us. So we are, every day we get kangaroos that are hit by cars every single day. And we have a wombat nearly every day also with mange or hit by cars. That's the main animal that we are called out to rescue or help out. Now, when we've only got a handful of dedicated care rescuers, active members, it's impossible for us to cover so much distance all the time. And Jan's right, we have one shooter in our branch, and she's just flat out all the time doing euthanizing.
Can I
Because
say, just Karen, they're one recognised shooter from Wires. There
yes.
are a couple of others, but they just keep a low profile at the moment.
Oh, so we've only got one. I thought we only have one Wires trained shooter.
That's right, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah,
That's a huge burden on one person.
Absolutely, very big burden, and she's been doing it on her own for many, many years.
Have you tried to get more people endorsed to do it?
We have, but I mean, Jan's got her gun license, but Wires won't let her go and do any euthanasia because she doesn't have her Wires gun license or shooter's license, even though she's got her gun license. There's a special course. Yep.
And I come off a farm, so I'm used to euthanizing. They do know that I do shoot animals on private property. And unofficially, at times I have done them on the highway, but I just ring up the police and tell them what's going on. To me, I don't go out and shoot roos because I don't believe that they should be shot from a distance. They should be tranquilized first. But wombats are much easier to euthanize because you can walk up to them. And it's a big burden mentally all the time, not just euthanizing things, but actually going out all the time and checking dead animals. And mentally, it's really starting to take a burden. We have a carer who at the moment is over on the coast. She's actually not with Wires, but she does rescues. And she came across two male kangaroos and a female kangaroo with a young Joey, almost furless. And people had knocked them over and had not stopped. And the Joey was still alive with its eyes pecked out. Now, she went home and thought, she thought that she was getting pretty used to things like this and went home and cried. And that's the sort of thing that we don't get support with from Wires. When we heard about Wild Talk, we were pretty excited. And then to hear that with all that money, they would not support Wild Talk was just amazing to me, because talking to someone at Black Dog or Blue Dog or whatever they are is fine and dandy, but they don't understand really what we're doing. We are first responders, and I've done mental health workshops for first responders. But until you explain to first responders exactly what you are going through as well, they don't understand. They just don't get it that every day is just something's dead or something dies and things like that. So it's really hard, and Wires really need to step up to Wild Talk and give us something that we can actually know that the people understand what we're going through.
Yeah, it's so important. And we've
Sorry, I got a
tried
bit
to
off
highlight
track
that.
there.
No, that's okay, because that was really important to raise, because
It is
we've said it
important.
many times that this sector specific counselling service run by Frances is ideal to
Yep.
provide to the whole community, and she operates Australia wide, and yet they've refused to fund it.
3 months ago, I went to a Wires RIT course. So all the new members are sitting there all excited to be wildlife rescuers and carers. They did all the training on what to do and asked about animals and species. And not once did they mention what they might have to witness, and to be prepared. And now I remember my wires course when I did it, my first call out, I was so excited. It was a kangaroo hit by a car. So I had my 4 kids. Oh, we've got our first rescue, kids. Come on. And I put 4 kids in the car. And when I got there, it was a big male kangaroo with 2 broken legs growling at me, bigger than me. And my kids were screaming, crying. I was crying because I couldn't do anything. I saw this and I just drove home and had to, find someone to shoot it. But no one warned me. So at the RIC course, I explained to the newbies, be prepared to witness some really horrific stuff. Don't think it's all going to be fluff and fun, because it's very confronting and disturbing. You will see some really tragic images.
So important to have that support. Have either of you ever had a call from head office from the welfare team to ask if you're okay?
I lost my wires buddy last year. She fell off the ladder and actually died. And I was quite surprised that a member of head office heard, and they rang me up to, say how thinking of you sort of thing, which I was very special to get that, because if someone from our branch dies, we're not even allowed to buy them flowers with our money.
Over the time, if you don't have good buddies in wires who are going through what you're going through, who know exactly when you ring them up in the morning crying because you've lost a wombat or a kangaroo or something, and you've put hours and hours and hours into caring for that, you don't want to pressure your friends because they don't understand. So you've got to have good buddies. If we had Wild Talk or something, we could ring them up and download. But Karen and I have many times have rang each other up crying and going, oh my God, I've just had to put down this beautiful wombat, or, oh, I feel like I've killed this wombat because this has happened, or whatever. And we just say to each other, well, at least it died quickly, at least it died warm and loved, or you don't know what's happened to it before you got it. If we didn't rescue it and look after it, it would be dead anyway. And they're all true, but it doesn't make it any better. We just keep telling ourselves that over and over again. And our mental health suffers. At the moment, I feel like I'm full. Even we had a wombat hit on our road, and I had to pull up because the person didn't stop and take it off the road. And I could have just sat on the ground and cried. I don't know why, because it's dead, because it's senseless death, because the person didn't stop to check if it had a baby or what. I just feel this sadness every time I see something hit by a car now, that just feels like, oh, I can't do anything about it, or it's just knocking your head against a brick wall. And we don't have anybody to help us cope with that. It's really, really hard.
Sadly, we do, but it's a funding issue. It really is.
Well, I
know that Frances still takes calls, even though she's not funded. She's an amazing human.
Okay. Yeah.
Jan and I are lucky we do have each other. And without Jan, I don't think mentally I would be still with wires, because I get very attached and emotional. I just lost a wombat yesterday. I got a phone call to say my wombat that I saved from mange, and malnutrition and dehydration. And honestly, I held him and he was like a dead carcass, and he had maggots in his skin, and he was a lot of work to get him better, only to find out that he had a dislocated thumb, and the vet said, oh, we can't do any more about it. And the carer who he was with let the vet make that decision to have him euthanized, because we don't have wildlife vets here. And that was really...
When you lose an animal, it must be so traumatic, whether you've cared for them or not, just witnessing that.
And you know what too, Sarah, when we raise a wombat from a tiny baby, as soon as that baby wombat comes into care, we have to instantly work out a plan. Where are we going to release this wombat?
Josie Shanahan.
So during the fires, I'm going to put that on. During the fires, we had all these burn animals, as you know, that you went and helped Jan. And oh, sorry again. Sorry. We had all these burnt animals that came into care. We were all fatigued. We were all stressed. And I realised head office got all this amount of money. So I rang up and made a request to speak to Leanne Taylor personally and begged her for release sites. I said, please, can you get each branch a release site? Because we've got nowhere to put these animals. They've got no grass, they've got no food. And she said to me, Karen, you need to put in a submission for a grant. While we're trying to feed and rescue wildlife, we're not admin. But she did not take that on board, that this is the final thing that Wires want us to do is release. Sure, we can all rescue and raise, but release is the biggest aim that we want. But without a release site, Jan and I are struggling to find areas to release our wombats. As you know, farmers shoot them because they are a nuisance for a lot of farmers. They need to be released away from roads. And it would be great if we could release them on a Wires release site and have cameras up so we can monitor which burrows have got mange in them, what they're doing, keep an eye on them. And they're away.
Research too, wouldn't it? It'd be a really good opportunity for research.
Absolutely. And not just for wombats, have our release site that we can all use. And the problem is, too, is we're not allowed to release our animals on a national park. And the problem is, too, we rescue animals from national park because they need help. We go to a national park, we pick up the wombat, we bring it home, we fix it, but we're not allowed to release it. And we're told we must release our wombats within how many kilometres, Jan?
50.
Yep. We must release the wombat within 50 kilometres of where we rescued it from. So if we rescue it from a national park, we're not allowed to put it back in there.
It's crazy, isn't it? It really is.
It is.
Makes no sense. And you would think with all of the money that they accrued, that they would have easily been able to buy multiple release sites in all of the regions. It's just
28 branches. I rang Leanne Taylor and said, if you can spend $1 million on each branch, I'm just going to shut the door. My mum's just going to come in. Hang on. I'm busy.
No worries.
If we could spend $1 million on a release site for each branch, that's 28 million. You've still got millions of dollars, and that would solve so many problems for our branches. And I'm sure other branches have the same issues.
Oh, yeah, I've heard it before.
Yeah,
they could be next to state forests, national parks, or things like that, so that you're not just crowding the land with animals. You'd still have to do it, especially with wombats, selectively. But if there was national park for them to go into, they would disperse themselves. Finding the right properties would be a challenge, but having the money is a bigger challenge. That's
definitely.
And speaking of money, one of the things that really annoy me with Wires is that if we get a request, which we have had, and $60,000 of money that was left to us by kind people who have died goes into our bank account in Sydney that Wires get the interest on, and then we still have to request from them and get quotes and everything to be able to spend our own money. As a branch, we agreed that we needed at least 4 more wombat release pens, which we can also use for wallabies and things like that. But we still needed to get all our quotes and everything and wait for permission for them to approve it and everything when our own branch has already approved our own money. I really think that's unfair. We are not allowed to buy bullets for our shooter out of a tin, the money that we raise out of our tins. we're allowed to use bolt guns, but we're not allowed to buy them with wires money. They won't let us buy them. There's just so many things. And like Karen said, the family of a really good carer, we're not allowed to send them flowers from our own branch money. We have to put it out of our own pocket again. Everything comes out of our own pocket. It's just, yeah, not fair.
How much do you reckon you've each spent on, enclosures and over the years, food and all of the things that you need to do what you
Thousands.
do as volunteers?
Thousands and thousands and thousands. When the fires hit, we had wombats in care. Was living in a residential property, and I didn't have any fencing to keep my wombats in. That's when I said I need to keep my wombats. They keep digging out, and they're in my next door neighbour's veggie patch, and they said, oh, you need to put in 2 quotes. You need to fill out the paperwork. Are they going on Wires property? Will other Wires members be allowed to use them? The paperwork to get the permission and the money, by that time, my wombats are escaped and, eating someone else's veggies patch. It's not quick and fast like we needed it back when the fires hit. So I went and bought all my own things, like my own cages, my own wire, thousands and thousands of dollars. And as I said, I've been in wires since the 1990s. And for the first time, I put in a petrol claim. So all these years, I've just been paying for my own petrol, and Jam pretty much the same. Very, it's more paperwork.
I've never got time to fill out for petrol, because first you have to do 100 kilometres and then start deducting off that. And Wires actually check every single claim, the same as they check every single vet bill. It's like us carers, we're not taking our dogs to the vets and getting the vets to pay for them. We're actually taking wildlife, and it's, in the drought, I had 9 wombats, plus I had kids to look after. I worked, and it was just impossible to do anything. Karen's claim that she put in, I might add, Sarah, I was in hospital having my back operation done, and Kuma rang me up and said, we've got a sighting of a baby wombat with its dead mum on the side of the road in Euconbean, which is 2.5 hours away from where Karen lives. Have you got someone that can go? And I'm like, oh, geez, I don't know. I said, I've only got one person crazy enough, and I'll give her a call. So I give Karen a call. So she loads stuff into her car by herself because her buddy's died. I'm not there. So, there's nobody to go with her. She drives 2.5 hours in the middle of the night, finds where this wombat is, puts a trap, stays all night. The wombat doesn't go in, drives into where,
Berrydale or
Berrydale or somewhere like that, to get a coffee, which was how long? Half an hour away.
far away from
Yeah. Drives back. Luckily, the wombat was in the pen, and it tries to escape because it wasn't a very good pen, because we don't have any traps or anything, and then puts it in the back of the car and drives home.
3
Oh
hours.
no, went to Cooma first. Went to Cooma, and then they didn't have anyone to care for it, so Karen brought it home. Here we are again, another wombat, 5 or 6 kilos, nowhere to put the poor thing, starving with a dead mother. So you put up with the mental health of that. Us all that Karen's done, taken a day and a half out of her life and a night in the bush by herself.
Sleeping in the bush by myself, and some stranger comes out of the bush like Wolf Creek and approaches me. Would you like me to, come down my tent for a coffee? It's not all fun and games. That was a big rescue, that one, and an overnight stay in my van.
That's such an eye-opening story. Wow. Man.
That's just the sort of things that we do because we love animals. We do it because we love animals. We don't want to be fighting with head office for our rights or anything. We just like some help. Just that's all we're really asking for, is to make being able and I know they've got to be accountable for where they spend their money or what's going on. But for God's sake, Sarah, in a week, you'd never met me. You didn't even live in the same state. You had it organised for me to get a wombat compound in a week. And I wouldn't have even been able to fill out the paperwork for that in a week because I was so busy. And that I don't know how many wombats that's raised that compound now, but without it, it would have been really crappy if I had to do it myself
Yeah,
because I would not have been
that was
able.
a phenomenal group of volunteers who I had never met, never spoken to, but we got it together and they went and did
Absolutely,
it
yeah.
and
Like they came from
yeah.
Sydney, like you're 8 hours away in one way, they're 8 hours away in another direction. Some of the local people donated things. It was just a phenomenal effort on your part,
But Wise,
really.
we would never have got that from Wise. We'd still be waiting for a yes because we haven't had 2 quotes, or, why didn't you go through that part?
And I have to say that was not that hard to organize. Like people just jumped on and went yes, yes, yes to everything.
Yeah,
And it was probably the situation at the time because there was so much publicity about the fires and that probably helped us because
yeah,
people were feeling really helpless and wanted to do something. But it just was an example to me of, what they could be assisting with and what they weren't assisting with. And me getting calls in Victoria to help people, just I'm like, why are you calling me? Like, just
yeah.
didn't make any sense. The whole thing didn't make any sense. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Look, the obstacle, I know that if we jump up and down enough, possibly head office will help us, but we don't have the time or the energy. We would like to be able to say, look, hi, we've just got 5 wombats in. We need extra mesh. We need wire. We need, and they say, yep, we totally understand. Here's the funds. Yes, yes, spend your money.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
not,
yeah. Because if your branch knows what's going on
yeah, our
and you
branch
can,
knows. Yeah.
yeah, then it should not be that complicated to get approval for things when you need them in that sort of situation. Just doesn't make
So
sense.
we've just got approval for um temporary. They're transportable yards, so you can take them to different places and put them to release wombats. They wanted to know where they're going to be, what properties they're going to be, how long they're going to be on there. There was a big list of things. I just wrote back and said, they're temporary fencing. I have no idea where they're going yet. I don't know where they will be and for how long. We've got one set of yards that have been somewhere for 2 years. Well, maybe we'll go and take them down in a couple of months, or maybe we'll decide that we can release wombats there again, or something like that. So, the whole point of it was that it's temporary, portable. How am I going to answer that question?
Yeah, that's
So
the
they
whole point
were
of something
happy
being
enough.
temporary.
Well, what happens is we have to find a property and ask the owners of that property, would you allow us to set up a portable release pen for their wombats? And if they go, oh, yeah, we could do that, then Jan and I have got to load the trailer with all the panels, all the star pickets, all the wire, go out to the property, spend all day setting it up. We're grandmas, and here we are banging in steel posts and
And Jan having had back surgery,
exactly.
like, yeah.
Yep. And I'm 4 foot nothing, and we're 2 old grandmas trying to do all this on our own, and they're not light because it's wombat material. We need something strong and sturdy. So we go out, we set it all up for the people, and which we're so grateful that they are watching our wombats until they're ready to go out in the wild. Then once they're done, we have to go back out to that property, dig out all the posts, pack it all up again, put it in the trailer, and then find another release site, find another nice property owner. Can we please put these up on your, property? And then it just goes over. We do it again and again and again. And after a while, with the removing and setting up, eventually they rust. They lose their ability to contain wombats. Everything deteriorates over time. So then we have to explain to Wise head office, oh, but didn't you get some release pens? Yeah, but they're not efficient anymore, you know. So once again, it's a battle to for the head office to understand our area isn't like the birds and the bats, what, you know, the simple little animals that they have in Sydney. We need really solid structures for our animals down the coast.
And you need release sites.
Yeah,
Simple
and
as
it
that.
would be really nice if they said, look, we're going to send 2 guys out there, you know, 2 young volunteers, we'll send them down. We'd even let them live with us, you know, for the weekend or house them or whatever to help us set them up. Because we're not going to be able to keep doing this the older we're getting. And unfortunately, we don't have any young members coming up the ranks anymore and haven't for a long time.
Why do you think that is?
Possibly because a lot of people now finding life is really hard financially with rent rises and work, you know, that there isn't any extra money. And to be a WISE member, you have to pay to be a member. Then if you want to do a course on being a wombat carer, you have to pay to do a wombat course. So you're constantly, even our vests, you know, our rescue vests, safety vests, we have to, we get 1 per year, I think. And if we lose it, we've got to pay for all our uniforms, all our equipment, our rescue equipment that we have in our car, wire cutters, everything like that, torches. We buy all that ourselves. So younger people just don't have those extra funds. Also, there's been a lot of publicity about some WIRES members that have possibly, you know, not cared for that animal properly, and WIRES send in the RSPCA and they're charged and taken to court. And that is a huge, frightening, scary thing for me, even after all these years. I'm, you know, even though I'm an experienced wildlife carer, I'm not a trained vet. I'm not a qualified, trained wildlife vet. I can make a mistake. And it would be a terrible thing for me to make a mistake, but to be taken to court and charged would just be that's
Aggravated cruelty. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a lot of conversation about the fact that communication has been discouraged, I would say.
Well, when I joined back in the 90s, we were never allowed to talk to different branches. We were
then.
No, we were never allowed to mix or communicate with other branches. And this has been the problem for years. We were never allowed to find out, because I wanted to talk to another wombat carer in another branch
Of course.
or coordinator to get some info, but head office never allowed to hand out the details. They kept saying, oh, it's a Privacy Act. And they never allowed us to all talk together. However, since social media has come on, unfortunately, WIRES can't control that anymore because each different branches are all communicating together, and we're finding out so much.
As they should. Share information, share experience,
exactly.
mentor each other, because no matter how experienced you are, you can still second guess yourself, right? And you still want to bounce something off somebody else, or
Absolutely.
you have an unusual problem that you need to talk to someone else about. Like, it's just logical that that should be encouraged.
And learning, like, the release pens. Somebody showed Jan from another branch how they use their wombat release pens. So now we know where to get them and how to make them and what's best. You know, all that information, we would have wasted thousands of dollars if we didn't know what the best ones were to use and how to get them. So it's important to share experiences and information with each other. So I think it's great that we can now, through social media, talk to other branches, which is great.
Thank goodness. How do you feel about that, Jan?
Oh, well, I had there's another wildlife group in our area, and some of the carers decided that they would just get together with any other carers. It didn't matter. And to us, Karen and I don't care who you are, who you belong to. If you're a carer, then you're part of who we are. We're carers. It's like being a mother. you don't just exclude them because they're in Victoria or something. We are all belong to each other because we're carers. And they actually got in trouble because they had an informal get together with some Wires members without it being sanctioned by their branch.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
very
insane.
interesting, like unbelievable. They just met at one spot and then, just took some cakes and whatever and had a good time. And then got in trouble from it from some of their hierarchy. So now they meet in secret. We still do it. We just meet in secret. It's invitation only now. So you can't just put it out there and say, oh, hey, guess what? We're having, a little carers get together on Saturday if you want to come. Doesn't happen anymore. It has
That's
to be
so
someone who
sad.
knows someone. Yeah, that's really sad. The other
Another,
thing I picked
yep.
up, I'm sorry, Karen, was about Karen saying, we're not experienced vets and things like that. In our area, we have some really tremendous vets. We have a few vets that are really trying to learn about wildlife. A lot of times you'll take in a wombat and you know more than the vets. You don't want to think that you're better than they are because they've got all the training. And it's really hard sometimes to get across to them, um, that no, we don't like to use that medication on a wombat. We'd like to use this medication. And in the bigger vet practices, sometimes you don't get to see the same vet all the time. So that makes it really, really hard. I was listening to Miller and Sandy talking yesterday, and I heard one of them say, sometimes you need the information from the carer on what's going on, which is true, and if you've done 20 wombats and 6 of them have had this same condition before, you know what works and you should try that first rather than just thinking, oh well, we'll just give them Medcam and oral antibiotics and they'll be right. And no, it won't be because that doesn't really work and things like that. So we have a wildlife vet that is 4 hours away from us, a very esteemed wildlife one who's got a Medal of Australia order. And as Wires members, we're not allowed to use him. If we do use him, we have to pay for it ourselves because there's a little bit of conflict of interest between him and head office. He is the most experienced wildlife vet ever, and he's the most experienced surgeon if you have broken legs or anything. I've seen him put a pin in a sugar glider who had two joeys in her pouch. It's amazing the things that this man can do, but we're not allowed to go there. We're not allowed to go
I
there,
think
not
I know
only
who you're
spend it.
talking about.
Yes, of course you do. Not only are we, no, we spend our own money, and you're usually there all day. So you go there, you take your own food, your everything, but then we have to pay for our own bills there as well, because all of a sudden Wires, without any explanation to us, said, no, if you use this person, we will not pay the bills. But lack of communication again, if we knew the reason, we might. But hundreds of people from all around Australia pretty much use this person and have great results.
Yeah, I
The
know
con
people come from Victoria to him.
Yep.
Yes,
So yeah, he's got a
And
great reputation.
the conflict of interest doesn't just stop with vets. It also continues with members. We have a fantastic woman that's moved to our area who was a Wires member. And we were so excited that she's now on board because she'd be an active member. She would be our mentor. She's almost like set up like a vet. She's so experienced. Snake handler, does the lot. And when she put in her application to be a member of Wires in our branch, Leanne Taylor refused her membership because of a conflict of interest with
Yep,
friendship.
that'll do.
Yep, with friendships. And it was,
Yeah.
but why? We want her. You don't have to deal with her. She's not working in head office. She's
So
working,
she was refused membership.
yeah, who we need. We desperately need carers, and
Mm.
she's perfect, and she's been refused membership. But that upsets us. That hurts us and our wildlife.
Mm.
So she had this conflict of interest in the branch where she was before with head office. So she left and she went to another wildlife organisation, and they are having trouble with a couple of people in there. And she left there because of that, thinking that she would just be able to go back to Wires. And twice they've refused her membership because of that conflict with Leanne.
Why aren't we allowed? We're members. Why can't we vote that we want her in our branch?
Absolutely. If like, and she's well known,
Oh, yeah,
and well experienced, and
we, we still ring her up and ask for info.
yeah, it's just none of it makes sense. Really doesn't.
Anything with Wires don't make sense at the moment.
All right, so tell me, what would you two like to see moving forward?
A release site for sure.
Yes.
Less hoops and hurdles to go through for supplies and what things we need. And I know this is very out there, but I want all wildlife to have one law, not state laws, because we live on the border. Our kangaroos and wombats don't know if they're Victorian or New South Wales animals. They jump across the borders all the time. Why is there so many different rules and
we need
laws?
a national law to cover it.
Yes,
Yeah,
because in South Australia, they're not allowed to release their wombats. In New South Wales, we have to release our wombats. And it's confusing. It really is. And it's frustrating because they're all the same. We're all wildlife, Australian wildlife. And they should all have one rule for a national, not state. But I'm not.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot to work on. Jan,
I'd
what would you like to see?
Better communication. Definitely better communication, and our branches being able to have control of our own money and for us to be, it feels like we're not trusted. It feels like they give you money for vets and food and things like that, and then you get raised money, and then it's like we're not trusted to spend it on what we want. And each branch has a unique experience. Like us in Mid-South Coast, we probably have the same sort of animals and things like that. But compared to Riverina, they've got a whole different set of problems to us. So rather than head office having to deal with all these different problems, we should be allowed to spend our money on what our BMC and members agree on. And that's one of the big keys with me and what I'd like to see moving forward. I'd like to see more accountability for head office and us being able to use our own money.
Because you've got a treasurer in your branch, right?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, it's you. Well done, you, for taking on that role. Jeez.
Yeah.
So yeah, between us, we have about 4 or 5 roles between us. So because we have a lot of members, but we don't have very many active members.
That's the problem. And another thing I would really want to see is wildlife vets. And the one at Byron Bay, I rang them the other day and said, look, I'm visiting. If I take a wild animal into you, how much do you charge? And they said, free. And yet Wires did not give them any money from those fires. And they do their service for all the wildlife around their area for free. And I'd like to see some wildlife hospitals down our way, along the coast, so we can all take our wildlife to a wildlife hospital and Wires help out.
So you don't have, or do you have an emergency Wires van down your way?
No. And during the fires, we saw Wires. Well, I never saw Wires. I think they were here for 5 days. Never saw them.
And we didn't see them. The one day I really, really needed them, they'd already left the area. And there was no use to me. They said they weren't doing much. They went to the next branch, and I really needed them and had to call someone from
me,
2 hours away.
Yep, I got all medical supplies, and drove around all the fire areas and was let in by national parks to deliver medical aids to burnt wildlife people and carers.
That was horrendous that whole time. Just you two are amazing for, sticking at it for all of this time and for supporting each other and for the workload that you have. Yeah, it's just thank you so much for all you do.
I might add, I reached out to you during the fires because Jan had just lost her daughter for cancer before the fires.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
Jan took on her 9 grandchildren while she was holding hoses to save her own property and her neighbours, while she's looking after 8 wombats in the house. And that's when I reached out to you and I said, can you please help my friend? She's doing it tough.
Well, I'm so glad you did.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Because I got to meet you both. And yeah, is there anything else that you want to last minute, or last points to make?
No.
I'd like to, I'd like to just, say to carers and rescuers, just hang in, find a good buddy to have a cry with, and let's just move forward, I hope.
Don't give up. Keep going. Keep hanging in there. Please don't give up. The wildlife need you. When Jan and I are at our wits' end, we just, there's another animal that needs help. We just find the energy. Please don't give up. The wildlife need you.
Well, we need you. And thank you so much, both, for talking tonight and for being the beautiful humans you are and doing all the work you do.
We appreciate you. We really appreciate you for representing us as wildlife carers. You're our voice because, we've been told to zip in the past.
Well, fortunately, that's all changed, and lots more people are prepared to, share their experience and speak now, and it's so important because that's the only way things are going to change. If people are prepared to, to talk about what's happened and come up with constructive plans to move forward and change the organisation for the better so it gets back to being about you guys, run by you guys. That's it.
Well, I just hope with Jan and I talking out in public that we're not reprimanded by Wise and having our licences removed from us because, it takes a long time to find a purpose in life. And without a purpose, we don't have a reason to continue on. And for me and Jan too, wildlife is our purpose. And if Wires was to take my license off me and say, no, you're not allowed to rescue wildlife anymore, I would lose my purpose in life. And that would just destroy me, and I'm terrified that would happen to me. And I really hope that Wires don't come down and say, you blah, 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 this, so your license is coming off you, because that's my purpose.
Well, thank you again.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Thanks, Jan.
Thank you, Sarah, for everything that you're doing for us carers. Thank you so much.
No worries, lovely. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.